Hey everyone, my name is Savion Mickens, the owner and creator of Surviving the Flame. Please be aware and know these episodes you are listening to are real testimonies from real individuals who have survived and overcame some harsh and even sometimes overwhelming circumstances. I created this podcast as a way for some to realize that it gets better, and hard times don't last always. I love you all, and I hope you take something from this episode to help you in your everyday life. For those interested in sharing their stories, please send me an email at tavion.mickens@outlook.com. That's Tavion, Tavion .mickens @outlook.com. Thank you. All right, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children, humans of all ages, stages, and even the ones making minimum wages. Welcome back to another episode of Surviving the Flame, where we have lit conversations with ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Now, before we get too deep into everything, well, first let me rewind a little bit. I feel as though a pessimist is someone who sees the I feel as though a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, but I feel as though an opportunist sees the opportunity in every level of adversity. And the reason why I say that is because our guest today is exactly that. Exactly an opportunist, someone who has gone through a level of adversity, but yet and still always finds a way to come out on top. In my opinion, she is the ultimate definition of a go-getter, has extreme levels of discipline, has a positive light and spirit about her that can just light up an entire room, no matter which one that she walks into. A college graduate. And for those of you who are informed or not informed, she also is a host of her own podcast, also called Unsilenced Truth. We will get into also. But I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I can go on and on all day long, but I want to save some of it for the conversation. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the SCF experience, Miss Caira Scott. How are you doing today?
Because we're gonna
Woo! Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying?
on the computer. We're gonna have a little stage, a little.
Yeah.
We're gonna be in person doing this, but thank you for having me. Thank you for
No,
the
for sure.
honor, and thank you for the shout out of the Unsilenced Truth podcast. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. It's honestly it's a privilege, man, to really have you on here. Just from listening to your podcast, from following you on social media, dog, you are truly one of one, in my humble opinion. Honestly, truly, the things that you're doing, the people that you're inspiring, I don't even know if you are fully aware of the lives that you've touched in such a positive way, but it's my honor to really have you on here. But I want to jump straight into it. First and foremost, where are you from?
I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, born and raised.
Yes, ma'am. You mentioned family a lot in your podcast, whether it be, the relationship between your mom, whether it be the relationship with your dad, things of that nature. How important is family to you? Or what type of role does family play in your life?
I mean, what does the role family play in my life? I think the whole foundation of who you are is
Hmm.
originally centered around your understanding of family and how it's valued and what that value is. So for me growing up, I always understood that like I had a large family, but not because I had like one mom and one dad and then like they just had a large family on either side. I had a very blended family. I was raised by three cops and a felon, and one's white, one's black, one's mixed, one's from Michigan, one's from South Florida, one's from central southern Florida, and the other one's from Georgia. So the whole dynamic of like already and uh what a strong household would typically look like is for a father and a mother to be in place, and them between their own experiences, figuring out what their family values are and then passing that down. So for me, like family honestly led to me being confused most of my life.
I
If
feel
I'm
that. I
being
feel
real, like as an adult, my parents are like, were you confused as a child? I'm like, yes,
that.
absolutely. Because it's not just having two things to balance. Now you're balancing multiple personalities. You're navigating the shifting roles and dynamics of how parents work together and raising you and what you believe and what you're learning through what you're seeing and what you're hearing. So,
Mm.
I mean, now as I'm older, like I never wanted to get married. I didn't want to have kids, but I would say through like time and me like unlearning things about what parenting and what raising a family looks like,
For
but
sure.
also like having more confidence in my abilities and like being able to show up as a good parent or being able to manage a household one day. And honestly, just becoming less selfish. I think those things are shifting as I'm becoming a more confident and wiser person with better community around me, and I'm, in relationships that I wouldn't mind doing those things.
Nah, for sure. I feel you. Who would you say is the most influential person in your family to you? That could be good or bad,
I
whichever way
couldn't
you
give
want to
you
take it.
one.
You can't give me one.
No. But I will say that as in adulthood, I definitely have great memories with all my parents. And for me, I've also had to recognize that like what I focus on is what I'll remember, which is why like people who are trying to do more, to do deeper work, you're gonna have to take time to focus on the things you don't want to focus on, to actually pay attention to them, to get the revelation you're seeking. So for me,
Yeah.
over the years, um, I've learned different roles people have played in my life. Like for example, like I would say I was raised by my mom most of my life, but I've always had a father figure in the household. Like that wasn't
Mm.
absent. Now my biological father wasn't always able to be present due to the consequences of his criminal lifestyle at time. And mind you, this man is degree. Like this is a very intelligent man, misapplied sometimes maybe, but he's taught me to be very resourceful. He and he's very big on teaching me from his mistakes, which is a good thing and a bad thing depending on the approach and depending on the delivery and depending on where I'm at and how I'm able to receive it. But also at the same time, like I remember when my parents, my mom and my old stepdad got a divorce. Mind you, this is the man who's raised me most of my life. So like them getting a divorce was still very impactful to me because that's the person who stepped in as the father figure in my life. And now I'm
Yeah.
having to navigate another split household. Then she marries this white man. So we do white things. And we have white people experiences. Like we almost died on a family trip going whitewater rafting. Like that was a
Mm.
real thing that almost happened. And I'm just
Oh,
like,
wow.
I wouldn't have these experiences. I wouldn't have the true Tallahassee blend of North Florida, South Georgia, which is like, everyone's like Florida's so different than everywhere else, but we're also like so close to Georgia and Alabama that it's pretty country. But then you
Yeah.
have the PWI and the HBCU. Then you have it as the capital of Florida. So for me, like, and then my parents being in law enforcement, that's like a political aspect of the city. So for me, like, when I tell you I had a very blended upbringing, it's like me doing track and field and doing all the events and not being great at any
Mm.
of them because I'm having to allocate time to all these different things. And as a child, that can be stressful when you're like supposed to be poured into in a certain capacity. So I had like a variety of experiences. I mean, that could have like, you know, contributed to my identity crisis. But at the end of the day, when like I'm having to take the pieces of my life and apply them in a way that suits me for what I know about myself now, I'm like, whoa, it's overwhelming to have as many tools that I don't know how to fully use, but at least I have them.
when it comes to your childhood, as we reflect on that, you talk about how blended it was and how complicated it was and things of that nature. What would you say if you had the opportunity? What would you say to your younger self? Picking any part of your childhood, if you had the opportunity to say anything to your younger self to maybe stray you from a path that, led to one thing, or stray you more towards a path that could have
We're
led you
going
to
up
another.
for a
At
minute.
least,
I had to like go back into my child.
hey, no, that's why I was just trying to give you like
No,
what I'm
I already
saying,
know
give it
because
a
like
little
I know
more.
what I talk to different Kairos all the time. I might sound,
Mm,
but I do. Like you have to. People who don't talk to themselves are not looking in the mirror.
no,
Um,
honestly,
and I think for me, I would just say like just because something bad happens doesn't mean you're always in the wrong.
that's deep. That
And
is
then
deep.
that would help me in a not carrying like false responsibility. That would allow me to
Mhm.
extend myself more grace, but also it would give me the understanding that you can do everything right and things still go wrong. A, because other things happen, there's nature. We all have free will, and then I do believe in God's sovereignty. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that people will tell you were wrong, and you just have to walk it out to see really what is the outcome and if it was
For
like
sure.
wrong or not. Because there could have been like thought processes that were wrong or intentions that were wrong, but like the actual decision that was made like doesn't have to be wrong.
And you also mentioned something in there, believing in God. I think it's safe to say you and God, based off of your social media presence, your podcast, and you know everything you do, you can clearly see that spiritual side of you in your work. And so, like, when
That's
it
nice
comes
to
to,
know. I'm like, I'm glad his fingerprints are all over this because it's
oh, of course,
not
of
me.
course, of course, when it comes to your spiritual walk, how can you say God has been influential in your life?
Well, I was raised in church, and when my parents got a divorce, we weren't going to church. And I often
Mm,
wonder if I was still involved in my church and had the ability to be a part of like youth,
mhm,
what how would I have like turned out or navigated certain things that I went through in like high school and going into colleges, like the principles that I would have been like ultimately standing on. Um, and then in certain relationships, I remember them trying to introduce God, but that honestly confused me because it wasn't the right presentation of him. Like it was very
mm,
perverse, unfortunately,
okay,
because I didn't have like a strong enough foundation of like my own knowing just due to all the shifting going around, what I'm being taught, different beliefs, how that's being applied. And then going into college, like when I got to Gainesville, I wasn't going to church and a lot of things happened. And I would say it wasn't until after my sexual assault that I really had to figure out how was I going to move forward and what was that going to look like for me.
mm,
And I would say like at first it was just me looking for him everywhere and just trying my best to take small steps. And that was for like 3 years of me like wandering around. And then I ended up going to this church, and I feel like that church taught me a lot of good things that were foundational. And it actually showed me I knew a lot more than I thought, but there's a lot more I needed to learn within the
oh,
sense of community and not trying to figure
yeah,
out life by myself. Because that's where a lot of people mess up. They're like, well, me and God, like, we just have our own thing going on. But like, that's like you saying you healed and then you get in a relationship and you're wondering why you're fighting all the time because you have not learned how to heal in context of relationships with other people. So like then you have the aspect of like being Christ like to other people when like you're not where you want to be, and you have to also recognize they're not where they want to be either, and then you also have to recognize the people above you are growing and working on themselves as well. So um I mean for me personally, I had a couple traumatic experiences in that church, But at the end of the day, I could say for myself that I stayed as long as I was supposed to stay until I
Mm.
moved to Miami. And now the church that I'm at, I can see the significant difference in how I feel and how I'm evolving and growing spiritually due to the leadership I have around me. And it wasn't that I was under bad leadership, but unfortunately, the circumstances of how I entered the church and how that was handled, and people, including myself, basically not taking the steps that were needed to repair. Like people think time heals things, but it's like honestly, it's humility.
That's deep.
And there was areas where I was learning to be humble or areas where I was not humble enough. And there was also areas where I saw in leadership where people were not like humbling themselves to even have a conversation about it. So that carried on for a whole year. And like that's an open wound
Yeah.
while I'm still navigating and being fed by these people. So ultimately when I left, I was like, okay, I need to find a new church. And I heard of this one church. Actually, my family down here, like we have a family church as well. And there's nothing wrong with that church. I appreciate like the foundation it has laid for my family and me spending time here. I've seen how it's passed down generation to generation, and even like me having certain aspects that I wasn't aware of. But I also know like what I'm called to do and like how I'm supposed to be impacting other people. And I feel like the people I'm supposed to be impacting are just not in the proximity of that church.
For sure.
So when I got down here, I was like, I knew that I needed to heal, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I literally went to this church. It was like empty. And I was like looking for any leader. I was like, listen, I have a story to tell. I need to tell to somebody and I need them to tell me what my next steps are so I can get some help, so I can focus on what I'm supposed to do over here. Cause right now I'm an emotional wreck. And they told me what to do. And since then I've been taking those steps. And even today, like because of that, I was able to do outreach.
Mm.
I mean, the words that were used were abused and abandoned children, but we did a health and wellness event for them. And we were playing games and bouncy houses, and I was serving sandwiches and popcorn and
It's
talking to
amazing.
them. And mind you, we didn't talk about anything they've been through, but me just having the understanding from like my experiences and my background, and then having the opportunity to step in and serve the community in a way that I feel like I can be impactful. That
For sure.
was refreshing for me. And like I'm just at a point where like I could not be writing this. I couldn't be writing this myself. And
Yeah.
I just have to know and trust that God's hand is on everything that I'm doing. And if I just keep trying my best to not be distracted by everything that's going on, because that's what
Mm.
I was failing at. Like I didn't realize how distracted I was by my emotions, how distracted I was by drugs and alcohol, how distracted I was by like the wanting to please people in the sense of like school and how much money I had and how I'm spending my time, and then me like being traumatized and not even understanding how my nervous system was out of whack, and then me being on pharmaceutical drugs for like 13 years. I was having health crises after health crisis, and then being sexually assaulted on top of all that, going through a breakup and literally coming home from the hospital with the antibiotics, the plan B, haven't eaten all day, my roommate's gone, and I'm laying on the bathroom floor vomiting
Mm.
and almost
But that
defecating on
is
myself. I was like you just really get to a point where you're like, well, like honestly, me doing it my way isn't working. And it wasn't that I thought my way was the best way. I just didn't know a better way. Now the challenge is, God, I think my way would be very helpful to your way. And he's like, no, I got this, which is very different than being like naive and not knowing at all. And then like for me, it was just having the grace and knowing that like I had enough to know where to go when I didn't know where to go, but I didn't have the foundation that I wanted to be upheld and like all the things that I was going through that in some ways I was bringing onto myself trying to solve my own problems.
bro, I think it's very, 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 very important that we just acknowledge everything that you in a way kind of just zoomed through. That is a lot for a person to just go through like,
No, for real. But this is how my
I was
brain
just like,
works.
hear that. God.
My brain, like, and like have being at this point in my process can be very lonely because
Mm,
at some point, like, again, coming back into community and relationships, you got to teach people about you because I'm like,
mm,
I don't know anything about what you've been through, and you're hearing my story for the first time. And it could be like,
yeah.
oh, wow, shocking. Wow, this is amazing. But as you come in like proximity and as there's like frequency in your meetings and you're having bad days and like the current reality, the present reality of the things you're navigating pops up, and then the old habits come to play. It's like, dang, this is what makes this complicated because now I got my past, your past, the present, and what we hope the future to be. And it can be a lot.
Yeah. And that's honestly how I think it's very important how you use your vulnerability as a strength.
Mm.
A lot of people view their vulnerability in general as a weakness, but you literally used it not only as a strength, but as a tool to let other people know that this is what I am going through. Not only do I need help, but I'm also still getting and going through it. You know what I'm saying? And then you talk about your healing journey. Something that from that alone, I know a lot of people can go through and never recover from.
Mhm.
Like, and of course I can only assume that, going through something as traumatic as sexual abuse or as betrayal or as, certain breakups, especially when you're in love, like all of that all together can really truly damage a person. But to see damage a person for the worst in how they end
That,
up viewing
these
society,
are like
you
some
know,
people's villain origin stories, bro.
no, really, really, like, and then like they will just, like you just said, become a villain, but in a way, like they end up being cruel and ruthless to just people in general. You know what I'm saying? But I am a firm believer, and I say this with a full heart, but I am a firm believer that although bad things still happen to good people, I believe that the people that they happen to we're used as vessels to be able to help someone else through a bad situation.
Mhm.
If there are just certain conversations that need to be had with certain people, but not everybody can have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's strong enough to have that conversation. Not everybody's strong enough to go through a certain experience and then be able to show or better yet mentor how to come back on a positive note, and for you to do that to a multitude of people is honestly incredible because that's deep. It's very few times I'm lost for words, but that is deep, man, and like that is very admirable, and it's reasons like that I definitely wanted you on the podcast. Not just to share your story, but also just give them an example of, in my opinion, what strength looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, everybody deals with things in their own way. You know what I'm saying? But having a platform just to show people that they're not the only one. You know what I'm saying? And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It may be dark right now, but there are people around you that can help you. Things of that nature. So I definitely do appreciate you for sharing that. Another question I have is, have you always been strong in your relationship with God? And if so, tell us about how you tend to maintain that strong connection with God, or if you've ever had a moment in time where things were a little rocky or a little shaky. You felt as though you could not be as strong with God, or you felt like God had abandoned you, or things like that. Like, how did you bounce back from that situation?
Um, it is me trying to remember like the original question. Give me.
Okay, no, 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 you good. I can rephrase it if you want me to.
No, it's not even rephrasing it because there was like I had an answer, but then I was like, no, listen, like the ADHD. I've only been like a year and a half off my meds, so
Mm.
I'm still like relearning a lot in how to
No, I feel you.
process information. Um, I mean, as a kid, like church was really big. Like my parents were, I probably don't understand the extent because like a lot of things that I remember, I haven't been able to have the time to have full conversations with my parents about them because upon coming in, well, when I was 18, I left my mom's house and got my own place. And then I moved to Gainesville. And then a year into that, I was sexually assaulted, didn't go home for a year. Then I was trying to like, because I was like medically withdrawn from school, like it was crazy. And then 2022 came in and I kept getting sick. I had a lot of health issues. 2023 had more health issues. I was unemployed due to those health issues and I was homeless for a little bit. So in my development with God, like in my development in my relationship with God, I haven't like been able to fully have all the conversations I want to have with everybody because again, there's so many parents.
Yeah.
And I've learned that how they walk that out is very different, which is part of the confusion I had growing up because I had it for a certain period of time, then it was dismantled, and then years into my adulthood, like the reality of what happened behind the scenes is coming to light, which is making me like rethink about everything I've seen, and I'm like, well, if this is what you're saying the word is, and then you're saying I'm seeing like looking back and reflecting and seeing all these other things, and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. That
Yeah.
like confuses and like again like perverts, unfortunately, my perspective of God and like who He is. Because for me, like the one of the first foundations of like your understanding of God is that He loves you and He loves you enough to send your son, to send His son to die on the cross for you. And like anything you ever done bad, like that was paid for. But you have to like tap in to that payment that was made for you. Like you got to go pick up your receipt and be like, my sins were paid in full. And that brings you into a relationship with God. For you to be one of His children and for you to perceive Him as the Father and not just as some like guy who's like condemning you, like being receptive of the love that He has for you. Like God always loves you, but you like turning to Him and acknowledging that is like the first step. So for me, again, if you asked me earlier, like what's one thing I would tell younger me, like not everything bad that happens is because you did something wrong. I'm raised by 3 cops and a felon. So already we have the criminal justice system of you commit a crime, you do the time, there's a cause and effect for everything. And there's not always an explanation for what was done. You just did it. So I'm like having a hard time understanding that like God forgives me of my mistakes. Like God still sees me. God still believes that I can do better. God still has good plans for me because I'm believing that everything falls on me. God has a plan for me. And if I fail to do these things right, then I'm derailing myself away from that, not knowing that He's always chasing me down and trying to bring me back into alignment of what He has in store for me. Like for me, I'm
sure.
just thinking I'm a lost cause. So for me, like even with me like developing my own relationship, mind you, I've been baptized like 6 times because I didn't believe that I was truly clean. And that was a huge thing too. Like one of my first podcasts, I was talking about how like I was afraid to die. Like that was a really big fear of mine. And like in the past 2.5 years, I've realized how much of the principles of my life were based on fear of like the adults in my life, fear of me falling victim to other people's mistakes, fear of, me being caught up in the system and which side am I going to be on? Like that was a lot of fear and a lot of like external pressure that I didn't realize like I didn't have to carry because that wasn't God's expectation of me. So I've had to like again, and it says in the Bible, like you have to be renewed in your thinking, you have to be transformed in your mind, like, and it has to be on things of Christ and not things of the world. And for me, that's been the hardest thing of like when everything I've been taught and drilled has been like by other people and their opinions of what they think is right or wrong. And then me being caught in the confusion of I can't make everybody happy, but these are the parental figures in my life. And constantly feeling like I'm failing because I can't make everyone happy.
You're right.
When all
Oof.
I have to do is live for God, and that's all that matters. Like there's a song that it says, "At the highest place I reach is at His feet. then I've done it all. If the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed
Mm,
my life, forever satisfied, God. You are my everything. And I'm just like, and it says, if one word is the
baby.
only thing you speak, then I've heard it all. If I feel your heart and never seen your hand, I still have it all. So, like, that brings me comfort in, like, God, you see everything. I mean, you see when I'm messing up, but you see me when I'm trying to get it right. You see me when I'm putting others before myself. You see me when I'm taking steps. And for me, I guess like I'm in a place in my healing where I'm just like asking God to reveal to me and like those moments where I felt alone, show me how you were with me so I can continue to have confidence and build credit in my mind that God's with me in the new things and the new challenges that I'm navigating.
That's powerful. Powerful. From the lyrics to how you battle, or like the first off, the fear of death. I definitely feel you on that one. I feel like that is something that I've had,
And mind you, I
man.
do a lot of risky stuff. So I'm just like, this is crazy.
Man, I've had a fear of death for the longest, but like, and I even like battle myself with this question, like, I guess like why? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is that fear there? And I guess like for me, I don't think it was ever judgment. I don't think it was ever, you know, heaven or hell, while that is a factor, but I think it's really just the aspect of taking that last breath. I think is where the fear actually lies. But I definitely feel you on that. And I also want to know like how exactly when it comes to fear in general, how do you battle through that?
I'm still navigating that. And I'll tell you why. So I've always had previously bad anxiety.
Mhm.
Part of it was from, well, let me back up. We already have the layers of attachment styles, which is like developed in your, and basically in how secure you feel with your parental figure and how you're being raised. So my mom was working a lot of night shifts. And this is like before I met my stepdad. Like I was with my dad on and off, and then she started dating him. Then I would be with them. Then they got married, and then we had a household. Then my mom was still working nights sometimes. Dad was on the SWAT team. So he had
Oh
to
wow.
go out at night. We had to go to the neighbor's house. So like
Mm,
the security of being home, knowing I'm gonna get a full night's sleep. I'm not gonna have to be worried about things. That's the
mm,
foundational place where the fear started and just feeling
sure.
secure at home. Because even then growing up with my stepdad originally, like I didn't feel secure and safe with him in our relationship. Not because he did anything wrong, but because my foundational relationship with my father was miscued. So developing somebody and accepting him as the father figure in my life at the time was really, really difficult for me because I was always in comparison. So then we have the aspect of me being molested as a child and that causing me to completely shut down. Like a lot of people, especially like with how outspoken I am now, like don't know that there was a time where like I didn't say anything. I didn't know how to express my emotions. I didn't know what I was thinking. I was constantly in shock, and that continued on for pretty much the rest of my life up to that point. And then like a year later, I got put on ADHD medication. The first time I took it, I blacked out and I was seeing sound and color. Um,
Wow.
I was really, really small and they gave me a really high dosage. After the ADHD medicine, I was put on a antidepressant. Then after the antidepressant, we added on a mood stabilizer. So at that point, I'm on like three or different four medications, and I'm in like the seventh grade on birth control because my
I was
period
just about to say,
started.
how old were you?
Yeah, like I was in seventh grade and I was put on birth control because my periods would last like 2 weeks and stuff. So already me going
Mm,
through puberty, I'm being added hormones. I have all these different medications being pumped in my system. I'm losing weight. I've had something
Yeah.
traumatic happen to me. And then 8th grade, my parents get a divorce. So now I'm navigating 3 different parents. I think around that time, my dad had moved to Georgia, out of Florida because, Florida hates felons. And so, like, and then I'm going into high school. So then with my high school team, I mean, I was on the volleyball team with Angie Strickland.
Oh Lord.
And how that
Oh
program in itself, like, while I would say like that was very foundational in like my fitness journey and the type of coach I am today, because she really did teach us like determination, grit, and pushing through. But because of those medications, my lymphatic system shut down. So my sophomore year, I was gaining weight, passing out in the weight room, like I couldn't sweat, and I was cut from the team, and I never made it back, and that completely changed my life. I gained like 20 pounds, and like because I wasn't working out, but I was like I've had always been an athlete up to that point. So now I'm sad and depressed, trying to figure out all these changes of like navigating being from like an athlete, not having the hindsight that that program would have definitely destroyed my mental health.
yeah.
But um like those were things I loved. Those were things that I had formed my identity around, and all of them were completely shattered. So, and then like I don't have church anymore. So like all of those experiences adding up, like watching my mom navigate things and like having to be like supportive of her, and then like having my own emotions and her and I going at it. And then, at that point I had just started building a relationship with my stepfather. Then a new stepdad came into I'm like, there's a lot going on
Jeez.
here.
Oh,
And for me, like all those things like just never made me feel like truly secure in my identity. It didn't make me feel truly secure in like my home life. But it gave me the opportunities to develop things that I do today. Like I can turn anything into a home now.
mm,
But at the end of the day, like people don't realize how much they suppress things that don't feel good to them, that don't feel comfortable, or don't make them feel physically, emotionally, or mentally safe. So now we're coming to my adulthood and I'm completely on my own. Like I'm living in a studio apartment after house hopping for 2 weeks because I didn't get kicked out. My mom put my laundry in the yard. Now no, there's nothing to rationalize that. And I won't even go there. But yeah, that was the last straw. Packed up my stuff in my car. I'm always packing up my stuff in my car and moving somewhere. And I house hopped for 2 weeks. And then I got my first apartment. And I like, I'm like, I don't have a gun. It's just me by myself. That was scary. 18 years
no, for
old,
sure.
getting my first
Oh,
apartment, using
man.
my little Five Guys savings. And I was starting my first fall semester. Not long after me being in that apartment, I went out to Cafe C Shift for the first time. And no one told me
Mm.
that you're supposed to use your own tip. Ended up with mono. I had 105 fever, stuck in bed, no one to take care of
Oh
me.
my
Mold is
goodness.
growing in my apartment because I'm living in the slums. Like it was crazy. So like for me, like part of the fear was like me always trying to get ahead and something crazy happening. Part of the fear
Yeah,
was like never not knowing who I was and like learning how to navigate and present myself in the world. Part of that fear was like I'm not doing enough. I didn't think like this was how stuff was going to start off. How do I keep going? And part of the fear was like failing. Like if I fail, like how am I going to get back up?
yeah.
And like
Man.
that manifested in a lot of ways of like, especially when like you're taking amphetamines. I think that's the right one. I was taking Vyvanse, y'all, and I was taking 75 milligrams of that. That's the highest legal dosage. And I would pop that stuff at like 5 a.m., be up at 6. So drugs were like starting my nervous system and my digestive tract every day for about 13 years. So my body was wired to do things it didn't want to do. So when I got off of that, I actually did go through withdrawal when I stopped, because there were like all these years later, 2023, there's a shortage and I couldn't get my dosage. So automatically I went into withdrawal. I was like, for a month, I was like, yeah, I'm great. I'm not taking my meds anymore. They told me I didn't need it. I'm fine. Bro, I wake up
Yeah.
one morning, the room's spinning, I'm vomiting, I'm thinking I'm shitting on myself, like I'm
Oh
crying,
my
I'm
God.
begging God to like just help me get to the toilet. Like it was not
Yeah.
good. And for me, I like that's when it dawned on me. I was like, dang, like I didn't know I was addicted. But I never agreed or signed up to be addicted. to drugs like
Yeah.
that for the sake of being productive, for the sake of making it through school. So my last semester of college was the only semester of college I went medication free. And I was in school
Wow.
for 5.5 years. And I
Wow.
went into college ahead.
You know, I do have a follow-on question with that. Um, how was your journey to, I guess we'll just start there. How was your journey to college? Did you like know exactly like what college that you definitely did want to go to? Like, did you, we'll just go there.
Luckily, like my mom had pulled me off the track team senior year because of something else that happened. And I was working extra, so I had enough of my savings and I just had to find an apartment basically.
Mm,
And I just got my own first little studio apartment back when it was like $600, $700, and I did a
yes, oh
short-term
my.
lease.
And was that still in
I was in
Tallahassee?
Tallahassee though, so that was like 20, like I feel like December, so December 2018, 2019. So that's like my first semester of college. And I started off at TCC. So like for me, I was actually going to college for free until I transferred to UF. I did some dual
Mm,
enrollment at FAMU. Then I did my first fall semester and my spring semester at TCC. I got into FAMU, I got into FSU, I believe I got into Florida. Like it wasn't like a matter of like where did I want to go? It was a matter of like how could I like not be in a whole bunch of debt. So I went with
mm,
TCC because they were like the way their aid was set up, I was getting paid to go to school. And when
that's
I
lit.
transferred over to the community college in Gainesville, I just finished my AA and I was still getting paid. And literally this summer I transferred to UF. COVID shut us down. Like, I mean, yeah, like we had already been shut down doing things online, but like I had just started my job at Crunch where I was assaulted, and then we were doing classes online, and then I had just transferred to this big university, and I'm learning how different it is than being in smaller classes and having like more attention. So,
Yeah.
and then I was trying to take Creole. I had to drop out of that class. Foreign
Yo,
language
what?
was not going well for me. I tried to take Spanish the next
Oh,
semester, medically withdrew from that one too. And then actually like my senior year, like I had to take my foreign language. And because I never finished Spanish one, I thought I was gonna have to do Spanish one, but then when I did the placement test, I actually knew enough to go straight in Spanish two, and that would allow me to graduate that fall. But like that was another big leap of faith because like I didn't think I knew anything, and I literally cried in that class every time I was in there. Like I was a grown ass person in college crying in class because like I was having such a difficult time like understanding it. But luckily, the teacher I had remembered me from the first time I tried to take it and empathized for me, and like she was very helpful. Profe Vicky, I love you. We are friends, but it was very, very difficult, and like it just showed me like how much it does help to have people like who help you without expecting anything in return.
as we're looking back over all of this, was there anything that you would change about your college experience
Um, I don't know.
or anything that you would do differently?
I mean, I was lit in college, but I wasn't lit going other places. I was lit at home. I threw like a lot of
Mm,
parties for my friends. I threw my dog a 21st birthday party, like pool days. I really, because at first it was just like when I moved to Gainesville, it was like me and my best friend lived together. And we were
for
long
sure.
distance best friends. Like we met at a volleyball tournament. Her name was Tyra. My name's Caira. We thought we had the same name. We looked very similar. And we became pen pals over the next like 4 years from that point. And then I moved to Gainesville to live with her because her roommate was putting dead hamsters in her freezer. And I was like, we cannot live like this.
Whoa.
So I came to the rescue, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then it was like me and her, like we were just ride or die. Like when we would like, it was always us. Like we were a duo. And then she was gone the summer of 2020 when everything just like hit the fan. And when she came back, like we got some new friends, and then we had like a little crew, and then we were just riding it out. But then they all graduated a year ahead of me. So like for me, like
Mhm.
I've always been the type of person to make the most of my experiences. I really like to maximize opportunities to the best that I feel like benefits me or benefits the
Sure.
intent of what I'm doing. And I mean, in terms of college, I wish I would have handled things differently financially. So I would have like practiced certain habits. But I'm also just like looking back, there was a lot of things I was fighting against. And like there was just, it was very difficult, like to either save money when I couldn't physically work to make money. And I was just trying to stay in school or like I was trying like not to be suicidal. And when I say that, like there would be times like I'd be ready to like not be alive. Like because I was always
Crazy.
living in a place where like I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like I like that's what anxiety felt like to me. Like I could not breathe. I was
Mhm.
stressed all the time. Like
Yeah.
always had to poop. Stomach was always hurting, constant headaches. And then on top of that, I'm taking all these pills from the doctor and I'm drinking. I'm binge drinking. So I really don't know how I'm alive.
It's like all that mixed with alcohol, yeah, can't be
I
healthy,
wasn't
man.
sleeping. I mean, I was eating good. I had food stamps and stuff. I was cooking all the time. And then like that was another thing. Like I would have my friends over,
Yeah.
we would cook and we would spend time together. And I think those moments like really were important to me because I was never the type of person to really like have like solid friends or have a lot of friends. Like I never really had the opportunity to learn how to be a friend. And like I would say this past week I was reflecting on different ways like I could have showed up better in friendships for sure, even within the last couple of years. Like letting moments that traumatized me in those friendships impact my new ones. But at the end of the day, when I look back, like I've always made a, I've all, I was not a perfect friend, but I would say I was always a very intentional friend. And my close friends, the people who know me, there was actually a project I had to do for class, and like I was basically interviewing my friends on how they felt about me, and I was like very curious, like what their responses were going to be. And of course, some of them were like, "You be doing the most, like you're
Yeah.
this and that." But like at the end of the day, they brought those like things that like are not basically the things that are my weaknesses. They showed how I do take steps to strengthen them or how they have improved over time, and then like of course honored me in the things that I am strong at. So
For sure.
it's been the hardest thing about college was like who did I have around me for what?
Mhm.
Because like I went through a lot of heartbreaks in college that I wasn't expecting, but I also and part of what made those heartbreaks hard was like I didn't know how to let go and move forward. Like I genuinely did not know how to do that. I did not know how to surrender. I didn't know how to like know which emotions were okay. Like it wasn't until like I started going to counseling and I had to go to counseling like every week or twice, like every 2 weeks to really like start changing the way I was thinking because my main thing was like I must be crazy. I feel these things, I see these things, but the feedback that I'm receiving from other people is that I'm wrong.
Is there, since you spoke on friendships, is there a friend from this time that like, or like a bond rather from this time that you wish you still had that you may have lost or that you're grateful for having?
I just recently lost a friend. She literally like told me she didn't want to be my friend anymore, and it's because
Yeah.
of honestly lack of communication. Like it was either times where she felt like I didn't show up in the best way that I could have, and she felt like she was always there for me. Which on the flip
Mhm.
side of that, I've learned with hindsight is she was also struggling with people pleasing. So there's things that
Mm,
she didn't communicate or areas where she wanted to show up in hopes that I would reflect those same things without telling me she wanted them. And with us being
yeah.
friends for so long, she's seen me go through a lot of things and it probably looked like something was always wrong with me and I always needed help. And then she wasn't always opening up about the things that she was going through. And since I was going through my things, I could only communicate as much or as effectively what was going on with me and make space for what was going on with her. And I guess like just this last time of us seeing each other, when I left, when I left, she nothing was communicated while I was there. And actually things were miscommunicated where like I was told something was okay that wasn't. So I went with it
Uh,
and I didn't make the right decision. And so when that was brought to my attention, I acknowledge the emotions, but I'm also like, A, I was there. We could have handled this here and we could have enjoyed the rest of the trip because I'm like, we've been friends for so long. Like I would have expected that level of vulnerability and communication. But I'm
For
also
sure.
just like, unfortunately, as your friend, and maybe this was poor timing on my part, I brought up some things that she was dealing with that I felt like could have clouded her perspective of like how I was handling things. And that just seemed to throw fuel in the fire. And she's like, I don't want to be friends. Well, she actually didn't say that. We just stopped talking. And then I followed up and apologized and like held myself accountable for where I could have handled that conversation or done better at previous times. And I kept checking up on her. And eventually she's like, I don't think you're getting it. I don't want to be your friend anymore. I'm still praying for restoration in that relationship because to me, like that wasn't just a friend, like that was like a sister. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I had to come to like the realization that like relationships are two-sided. So I need to be
Yeah.
aware for where I fall short, but people have to do their work and presenting themselves authentically so we can like make the best decisions for ourselves and for the relationship as possible. Like if you're upset with me about things and I don't know, I can't do anything about it. I can see you're upset, but that's not my job to make assumptions when I'm like asking questions or like we're all adults. So like it was very complicated. I just took the lessons and I'm even then I'm like praying for like even like the other day I was thinking about areas where like friends were like they weren't being direct with me, but asking me to compromise, not in a bad way, but to make compromises that would have been helpful for them. But I didn't see what they were really asking underneath what was said. And I missed opportunities to actually be helpful. And I was probably a burden in that moment. And they took a step to appease me, and I probably didn't respond the best way. So, like, those are things that I'm aware of. But at the end of the day, I can only have grace for how I responded, but also have hope that I can surround myself with people who feel comfortable enough expressing themselves to me as well.
I'm gonna just harp on that real
Okay,
quick.
while you do that, I'm
People,
gonna take thirsty.
no, go ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People need to learn. I just feel like it's very important for people to learn how to vocalize how you feel about another person, man. Like, do not while it is important to, try to understand and see, different angles and stuff like that. Also at the same time, if me personally, if you never tell me that we have a problem, 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you, I don't know that we have a problem. If you don't tell me that like that like we have beef about X, Y, Z, A, B, C, guarantee you, if you don't tell me, I'm not gonna know. You know what I mean? So like, I think it's very important to just let people know and express to them when and where they go wrong. Because if you have a genuine friend like yourself, then like they're able to, see, okay, well, either you like to move this way and I don't want to move this way, or okay, I can see how I messed up there. We can go ahead, we can patch that up, fix that up, and things of that nature.
Yeah,
But
I don't mean to
what was it?
interrupt you, but
You good?
I for all my avoidance out there, I gotta speak up for them because again, like I said,
Yeah.
like for me, like having most of these real friendships that I'm navigating has been on the other side of me learning how to express my emotions. So probably I didn't always express them the best and it hurt their feelings and they didn't know how to tell me I hurt their feelings because overall they know my heart and my character and probably knew I didn't mean it and saw the things that I have been through. But most of the time, people who don't want to speak up about how they're feeling and what they're going through is they are scared that if they say something, they're going to be retaliated against and rejected or they're going to be abandoned for what they said because like the other person's not going to know how to handle what they said and it's just going to leave. So with that being said, and again that all goes back to attachment styles formed at birth, it's like I feel like in society we've been taught the wrong questions to ask upon meeting people, and if we ask certain questions in the beginning we would know how to navigate the conversation to receive more helpful information, but also it would establish places of security for people to pinpoint, okay, this is where I can connect with somebody And this is where I can be understood for them to like express things as well. Because sometimes people do want to say something, but hey, they already know that they're messed up and they're not going to explain it correctly. So they're just going to wait and hope time reveals, or you ask again on a different day, or God gives them revelation, which does happen. But also, it's like the physical effect that's happening in the body that is preventing them from physically speaking because they're so in their head. Like, and that could be, and that can still be anxiety in the head, but how the body expresses it is very different. Like, it's not so much, well, maybe you might see somebody like hand in their head, but their foot is bouncing. But then even then, angry people are like walking around, storming around, fist bump. Like, it's the same coin, but expressed very differently. And then that just inhibits points of connection. So two mature people would be able to say, identify, hey, there's a problem. I don't know how we're going to talk about it. Let's set up the environment to talk about it, figure out how we want this to go, and then just try. Because a lot of times, like, you're not going to get it right in expressing yourself, and you just have to figure out where you went wrong, be able to acknowledge where you're wrong, coming back to humility, saying, okay, I actually did hear you in that, but in that moment I was so upset and how it made me feel. This is how I responded, but this is what I actually thought. Instead of just letting things be where it was, because, well, at least we talked about it and it was so bad I don't want to try again. And they bring that from other relationships into current ones, or real things have happened in that relationship, again, that were unexpressed because they seemed small in that moment, but those are really like pokes and prods at little wounds that we don't know that the people that we care and love about have.
Man, that's deep. It's fire burning. Starting off with question. So for those of you familiar, question from the fire pit is where we have a bunch of, we put out polls and questions on Instagram, and we ask people to send us questions that they feel would resonate with the person that we're interviewing, or things that they may just want to hear on the interview or on the podcast in general. So we got a few questions today. So question number one, we only got three. We got three questions today from the fire pit, but three that I chose that I feel like would really resonate, or that I personally want to know from you. So question number one from the fire pit is, who is your hero? These are not my questions, by the way. One of them is. I will show that later, but these are not my questions ultimately.
I mean,
But
I'm not really the type of person to be like, oh my gosh, you're my hero. I mean,
or who's the person that you look up to?
Shout out to my Lord and Savior Jesus.
Right.
For real, like, he's the only person that I know that truly saves. But I do know that he uses people in my life who know him, and they're able to be the hands and feet for him, and like actually do things in the natural in my life that I can like, thank you God for saving and sending them. Thank you God for placing this person in my life. But I'm like, really and truly, I've been through too many things that nobody else could have gotten me off the floor or actually helped me live through, physically live through, other than like him paying for my sins, so I don't have to live in condemnation for the rest of my life. And then also like being a healer, coming in and healing me of like now I don't have those pains. I don't have a lot of the things that I was experiencing that like would have me vomiting every single day, that would have me like laying on the couch in fetal position. Like, I would not eat because I couldn't, because I would eat something and then throw it out because of the years of me just having these chemicals being digested in my stomach and probably affecting my liver, because I was also just day drinking all the time and taking nightcaps at some point in my life. So when I look back at my life, and I'm like, yes, there for me there was a lot of people who try to help me, but like there's a story in the Bible, and this nurse was taking this baby and fleeing the city, and she dropped him and he ended up like crippled. And like, I was watching a sermon while they were telling that story, and it was like, how many people in your life have tried to help you and hurt you in the process? And for me, it's just like, that's like a big thing. Like I'm still processing in my life. Like, yeah, looking back, there's a lot of people who have like influenced my life and helped me, and like my mom's done a lot for me, like despite like our disagreements. Like I can say like even through the process of me going to the doctor a lot and like not knowing what was wrong. Because most of the time they were like, there's nothing wrong. And now I know like I was going through a lot. Like spiritually, I have a lot more understanding of the things that I was going through and wish we had more community and parting wisdom in that area to pray and cover me in certain areas rather than trying to figure out so many natural solutions that may have helped or maybe were only supposed to be used temporarily but had long-term effects. With that being said, like there's a lot of things that I didn't ever think were going to be different. There's a lot of things like there's a period in my life where I thought maybe I would never sleep, but now like, I sleep more peacefully. So with that being said, I'm like there's people who do a lot of things for me, but like the things that have made the most influence in my life, me, and when it came down to just me being by myself and having to figure out what are we going to do next, like nobody else was there but Jesus.
Next question from the fire pit is, if you woke up in a room surrounded by everyone you've ever known, dead or alive, who's the first person you would look for and why?
I would probably look for Early. That's my fiance. Because I want to know that like they actually contacted him, and or hopefully like he was like my emergency I don't know. That nigga need to be there.
For sure, for sure, for sure. That's love. No. And then last but not least, my this one is mine. So and it's typically a question I like to ask people who have been very influential in my success or just in my life in general. But the question uh, is name one of your name an adversity that later led to one of your biggest success. Like if it wasn't for me going through this, I would not have been able to accomplish this.
Getting cut from the volleyball team
Wow, that was quick.
because it
That
completely
was
changed the trajectory of my life. I was like gonna figure out how to play volleyball in college, but doing that I gained weight. So then I ended up my the guy I was dating in high school. I remember crying. I was like, getting fat. I'm supposed to be an athlete. I don't know what to do. He's like, you know what? We're gonna start running right now. You're coming to join the track team. And I did. And they started me with shot put and discus. I was a thrower. Then I started leaning out again. I tried to do jumps and try to do sprints. Then I got my mom pulled me off the track team, and then I started doing kickboxing, which led to Muay Thai, which led into the MMA. The personal training that I do nowadays is combat training, athletic training, and functional style training. And I am a
that's
boxing fundamentals coach. So that's literally how I make all my money right now is implementing every single thing that I have learned from starting with Angie Strickland and her volleyball program with us training like D1 athletes all the time because like I had first period Hope PE, second period weightlifting with her. Then I would have practice. We would have strength and conditioning. Then we would have practice, and then we would either leave for sand practice or I would have AAU. So I was doing volleyball all the time. So like with that being said, if I wanted to play, I needed to prove that I was reliable, could do my job, and I could score, and I could play all around. With that being said, I had to sharpen everything about me, like my mindset, um, when things hurt, pushing through. Like one thing I tell people in my class is like, hey, slow down, but don't stop. Like if you like I remember coming to track and I wasn't in running shape, but as long as I finished the workout, like I was cool with it. Like I didn't have to be first. I knew I wasn't gonna be first, but just showing up consistently and doing things the right way and being intentional in my movements has allowed me to understand how the body works. There's a lot of areas I need to grow as a trainer, but in my coaching style, being able to recognize a movement and how I can make a correction that is pivotal not only in the mind and how they perceive what they should be doing, but the actual application of it that has made a huge difference in what I bring to the table as a coach because I can progress a movement or regress it.
So this is also gonna play into a question later on in the interview as well. But would you say that you're living in your dream?
Yes, after my dreams were absolutely crushed. So let me tell y'all about this.
What's up?
2020, um, I started working at Crunch Fitness as a personal trainer. I was sexually assaulted by my coworker. And how that was handled was the next day I came to work and told my coworker about it. She told me to go to the hospital. Came back. I told my manager. He was supposed to be investigated. Assaulted somebody else while I was working there. In his 2 weeks
Mm.
notice, so he never got fired, but was still allowed to work out at the gym. Threatened to kill me in the parking lot.
Wow.
And then one day I couldn't do it anymore. And I asked for a 2 week break. Now, mind you, they offered me a break at first, but I was like, no, like right now I need to keep working. I need like I don't even know what I'm gonna do. But when I asked for one, like my actual manager wasn't there, so I told another supervisor and I wrote down all my clients and who I wanted them to train with while I was gone. Literally, it wasn't even like the next day, and somebody called me like, "Bro, you quit your job and like you gave away all your clients." And I'm like, "Bro, no." So I finished out the rest of my vacation, came back and had a meeting with them, and I'm like, "That wasn't cool. Like this is what happened." And they literally told me like that was in the past. You need to get over it. That was after 2 months of me working at Crunch with this man after he raped me and bringing them $5,000 a month in clients. Like I was grinding. Like, and
For sure.
I was one of three black trainers, one of two female trainers, and one of two or three trainers who did boxing. So they were using my face for everything.
That is
So
wild.
I never went back, and like I stopped training for 3 years until I like met Early, and he told me he was a trainer, and he brought me along on like some of his sessions. And me being me, I started making some corrections, critiquing, and taking over a little bit. And then we became business partners, and now we have LPD coaching.
I definitely see how all of that led to where you are now, and it's honestly unfortunate and it's tragic that you had to go through that in such a short time
Right. Like,
frame.
and that's the thing,
My
like, people
agent,
weren't
like there's a whole
understanding. I never
vacation.
got a break.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like that is
There was one semester in college I
wow.
had the flu, COVID, and pneumonia in one semester back to back. So I couldn't
Jesus.
breathe the same afterwards. And I had the anxiety of that literally left me like
No, for
breathless. So I'm
sure.
just like, most of the time, like, I haven't, like, I don't know how I've always made things work and probably not to the best that it could have been. But I also didn't have the time to like really stabilize myself because I was fighting for my life.
Yeah, it's oh man, how you do it, never be able to understand fully. But I
Um,
think you also mentioned something along the lines of how all of this led into your podcast. If you don't mind me transitioning into there, like what inspired you to do a podcast, and how did you come up with the title? And do you have we're going to start right there. What inspired you to do the podcast, and how did you come up with a title for it?
well, I knew I was supposed to be speaking to people. Like, I've always wanted to be a speaker in the sense, like, I wanted to encourage people and impart wisdom. And I always felt like not qualified to do that. But like through conversations I would have with people, they're like, you say a lot of really good things. And I'm like, bro, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you what I've seen, what I lived, and what I'm figuring out. And I realized that not only was there things that I went through that other people went through and they didn't talk about. I didn't realize that there were things that everybody goes through that are just not talked about. And then I realized there were things that I was going through and the people around me would not talk about with me, and it was driving me insane. And so
Mm,
Unsilenced Truth was really like my outlet, not only to
that's
say
deep.
what was happening in my life and what was going on, and just
Yeah.
hoping that like, hey, if I'm figuring something out and it's helping somebody, or like maybe y'all can learn from like my thought process and like have a new perspective to look at your own situation. This is what I got for you. But also it was just like an area for like I knew people would listen. I knew that I was so out of pocket with things I've said that people would tune in just to know what I was
Yeah.
saying on the mic, which is why it's like raw and unfiltered. I mean, part of it is because I don't feel
Yeah.
like doing all this editing, but also at the same time, like I don't need time. I don't need to be second guessing everything I said. Now there are podcasts that I would love to listen to again and come back and be like, all right, guys, I have a more mature and expanded
Mm.
um, perspective and insight on this. Or maybe sometimes
Yeah.
I'll say, actually, I was wrong and I need to clarify that. But that's still allowing room for growth and grace within like the project that I have. And knowing that with time, if I expect to do something over the years, like I'm gonna be wrong sometimes and there's gonna be like areas for improvement. So I remember when I started that podcast, the guy I was dating at that time, like he definitely wasn't listening to what I was saying. And
Yikes.
he was actually one of the first listeners and he was so proud of like me posting it. But like eventually it came to the point like as I opened up about my topics, people were upset about the things I was saying on my podcast.
Mhm.
So I had to like make sure I wasn't name dropping, or like make sure that like I wasn't playing a victim in how I was telling my circumstances and my story, like being objective if I could be, and like
Yeah.
looking at it from the perspective of like, okay, this is what has happened. This is how I'm interpreting it and processing it. And this is what I would like to see in the future. But also, like sometimes, like I'd be like, yeah, like in my head, I'm like, I think my relationship is ending, and like I'm watching this unfold, and we're figuring out if we're gonna stay with this man or not. And then it's like, hey guys, actually, a new man is coming in my life, and like I'm still processing getting over the old one, and this is crazy. Oh, now I have church hurt. Like that, those were all, or like even then, I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about like how I was raised, and my parents did the best they could, but they fell short. Like when other people hear that, like if they know me, they know what that stuff is about. And
Yeah.
like that's just something I have to be aware of, that not everybody is going to like what I have to say, but at the end of the day, like it's not that it's my truth. And then I would always take time to pray and ask God for my topics. Like I would literally be like, God, what do you want me to talk about before I get on here? And like take inventory of my life. And like he would give me like a word and I would just talk on it.
Yeah. You do that a lot where you will start or at least I feel like you may have just started. I'm kind of like trying to start from the beginning and then work my way up to the front with your show. But you do that a lot where you will start off a episode with a song or with a verse, or have a way that you input that somewhere in there. Honestly, I like it.
Yeah, I need to get back to
From a
that a little
listener
bit.
standpoint.
I've been slacking. But that's because it's just been hard to tell people what I'm doing. Like,
And this is another thing that I want people to understand. Like the majority of your show is literally exactly what the title is. It is unsilenced truths. And as you've said before, these aren't just like random facts. This is your life.
right.
You
No,
know what I'm saying?
no,
And
literally. Like, y'all think I'm making this up. I wish.
nah, but the thing is that you tell it all. You tell, and I feel like that is such a strength that not and level of courage not a lot of people have, to literally look at their situation and be like, this is messed up, but I'm getting through it. Not only am I getting through it, I'm going to help someone else get through it. I feel like that's one of the biggest things, because it's just like when you really look at your situation, you just be like, dang, bro, like this junk sucks. And it's so easy to go through, especially in today's society, to go through a day and you pass by someone, they'd be like, like, hey man, how's everything going? I'm like, oh no, I'm doing all right, doing pretty
I don't be
good.
lying.
When really deep down inside, man, I'm fighting for
I'm
my
like, hey,
life.
man,
Life is life at this point, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
now for you to consistently since 2022, right? Since 2022, consistently and consecutively put out content about the struggles that you've gone through, the your spiritual walk and your journey, the relationships with your parents, the relationship with your family, the assaults and the trauma, and you put this all out for people to hear. And it's not just here like, oh, like listen to like, like what was me type of story. No, you're putting this out here in a way of this is what happened and this is how I'm getting through it. As almost as if it's like a blueprint for others to try and get through who are going through the same
I mean,
thing.
that's what
And that
happens
is
when you're a
why
pioneer.
you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Exactly. And I just got mad respect for the craft and the art and the love for that you have just for people in general. You mentioned this before about humility and how humility can help people get through certain challenges and obstacles in life. And I feel like your podcast is exactly that. The way that you speak to the people, the way that you are with people, the way that you literally center your entire business on making people better is exactly what you're doing. Like all of that is strong signs of humility and just expressing and putting out just nothing but positive vibes, man. It's honestly amazing. Do you that transitioning into, like your aspirations and things like that, how does your fitness journey, how exactly did that begin? And were you always into fitness, or did you ever feel discouraged? I can only imagine, like, things from like the volleyball team and everything like that could have possibly played a factor, but where exactly did your fitness journey begin, and how or what fed you to stay so disciplined in that journey?
I mean, I've always been active, like even in elementary school, field day, like I was a tomboy, like I was playing knockout, kickball, flag football. I was I was playing soccer for a little bit, and then like my last year I was on an all boys, all Hispanic team. I wasn't getting no play time, so I quit that. And then I started
Uh,
volleyball, and I was actually like not good. Not good. I was very strong, but I didn't know like how to control my power. So I went through
yeah,
a phase of I didn't know how to control my power. Then I learned how to like start strengthening it. And then I went through a season in life where like I felt like I lost my power. And now I'm on like the come up of like understanding my authority and my power as a person and as a woman. So like
now when you started, was that in high school? Sorry to cut you off. Was that in high school that you started, or did you start volleyball prior to?
I played volleyball for like 9 or 10 years.
Oh geez, wow.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
why it was so traumatic when I stopped playing because I had literally been
Mhm.
doing it for so long and it was the only thing I was doing. And I was getting really, really good at it, actually.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
So, like I said, being on, it's not just any volleyball team, like Leon High School volleyball under Angie Strickland was a different type of program. And like since moving away and like seeing like the news reports of like basically what happened to other players under her leadership, like that was a tap on the shoulder from God. Like, yeah, like you were crying that I pulled you out of that, but like I needed to use that time to work on other things that would prepare me for this
Yeah,
moment, but it would have did more damage because I would have been finding my identity and pleasing my coach and perfection and different things like that. And so like there was two sides of it. There was the side of like as a athlete, I'm getting a lot better, but in the sense of my mental health and my identity
it
is
was
going
slowly.
down.
Yeah.
So then when I came into track and field, that was me like starting over because I had only done track officially like in 8th grade and like that was without like any formal training. So coming into track after being offered like a whole volleyball season, eating the same way, I gained a lot of weight. So I was just strong for no reason, which is why I did the throwing and why I did discus. But then the next year I was like, no, this is not me. I know I'm fast. I know I'm able to do these things. So I started training with the sprinters to get the mechanics and the fundamentals down for running that I needed to start leaning up. Ultimately, I got pulled from the track team. I started doing MMA, and that required a different level of mobility and intentionality of how I train. And not only was I competing against other people, I was having to learn how to protect myself. So
Oh,
that in
oh,
itself changed the game of how I was training, because not only did I need to be strong enough to take hits, I needed to be able to give them, and I needed to be able to last.
yeah.
So that completely changed my mindset of like, not only am I competing for my spot and competing for my team, I'm competing for myself and I'm competing with others around,
Yeah.
which gave me
That
different levels of what it's like to like hold yourself accountable and have integrity in what you're doing behind the scenes for yourself. Because in high school, I used to wake up at 4 a.m., get leave the gym by 4:30, be no, leave my house by 4:30, be at the gym at 4:45, work out, come home, shower, do my homework before school, and then be at first period. And I did that for years. We lived off of eggs, hash browns, and protein shakes for a while. Cause like during this period of time, this was like after my parents divorced, so my mom was broke.
Mhm.
So like
And
all
you guys were dominantly staying with her?
hmm
And you guys were dominantly staying with
yeah.
her?
So because mind you, like he didn't have any legal things over me because he was my stepdad. So like primarily
Uh,
my mom's house was my place of residence. But whenever my brother would go over, I would go over too. And at that point I was old enough to start driving. So
mm,
a lot of that like is where like the discipline of me getting up every day and working out, because like that's what I was used to doing. Because even at the apartment complex where like my mom lived, I would work out there, but like it was like, okay, I need to stay moving because I know what it's like when I lose it and it's harder to get it back. So like I'd rather just stay ready than get ready.
oh, for
And
sure.
that's kind of just been the thing. And then just as I've had to do different things with my body and different movements, it's developed in different ways. It's needed different things over the years. And I just, instead of like being the type of person to stick to one thing, I'm just like very aware of like what my body is telling me. Or I know something's wrong and I find out what I need and I make those adjustments. Because even in track, I had like an anterior pelvic tilt because my quads would be so tight and I would have weak hamstrings. So I needed something to start strengthening and loosening up those hip flexors. And like even in that transition that translated to like MMA with me having to be mobile for jujitsu and do kicks and different things like that.
I feel that. Hey, I got one last, nah, it's not one last question, but I do have a follow-on question to that, and it is, when you talk about, um, not as, a part in your life where you were looking or trying to find yourself, or times where you may have been lost within yourself. When you look in the mirror now, who do you see, and who do you aspire to be?
I just aspire to be the best version of myself. I don't even know all the things I'm gonna do, to be honest. I just know I didn't know if I was black enough or white enough, and then I was confused in my identity. And even since coming down to Miami, like there's certain things I'm like, oh, I see why I like these things. I've liked certain things, and now it's fulfilling to have access to certain like I've always loved the beach, but I wasn't like 15 minutes away from the beach. Now I can go sit at the beach whenever I want and go home. That wasn't always a luxury I had, but that's something that means a lot to me right now. So for
For
me, it's like just a understanding what did I have the privilege of having access to and how that shaped me. And then like what did I acknowledging and being honest with what I didn't have access to. And then with that information, what do I want the quality of my life to look like now? And then making decisions that shape that. So it's like, okay, like if I want to go to the beach and I'm really craving to go to the beach, like how can I put that into my budget and put that into my schedule if that's something that actually like makes me feel alive? Like a lot of people are doing things they feel like they have to do and then like they're hating their life in the process. And I haven't even gone through enough like I haven't been able to truly enjoy the things I was doing in life. So now I'm just at a place where like my nervous system isn't shot out where I can actually be at peace.
mm,
So that's just what I'm trying to do. As long as I'm making decisions that allow me to like expand what I'm doing and they're bettering me and they're in alignment with God with what I believe God is telling me, then that's who I want to be. Because there's a lot of things I've wanted to do and wanted to be, and then I was upset that they didn't happen. And then, like, you make it a few years down the line, you're like, oh God, I see why, I couldn't do that or why you didn't want that for me. So I'm just trying to be like more present about where I'm at and like why things could be unfolding and just being grateful for it all. Instead of like, again, thinking there's something I could have done better. Like, yes, there's things like there's times where like a series of choices get you to where you are at, But I've also seen in moments where like I've let that, like I've acknowledged it, I've repented from it, and I gave it to God, and like He started turning things around and used it. So I mean that's a gray area and where I'm still learning. I mean, I was growing up with straight hair for a good period of my life, and now I'm a natural hair care ambassador, and I dye my hair all types of colors, and I do different things like that. So like I just feel like I have no clue what I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna do it, who I'm gonna help. I'm just making sure that I have the capabilities and the capacity to do whatever I need to do.
That was actually another question I was gonna actually ask is what do you feel like is next for you?
I need to find a
Like
place to live. I'm living at my grandma's house, man. And
I'm
even
sorry.
then, and even then, I
So
don't
funny.
think I'm supposed to find a place to live. I feel like God already has a place, and like He's just preparing me to steward it properly. And like, obviously, I'm saving and I'm doing this not to help me get a place, but like sometimes, like we're like so busy, like going on our own hunt for things that we're not like we get distracted with what with we get distracted from what God actually wants us to focus on, and then we're wasting time. And He's like, actually, I need you to work on this. So when I gave it to you, you'd be ready. And now you're over here trying to figure it out, and it's already figured out. Like it's just not ready for you yet, or you're not ready for it. So
That's
I'm just
deep.
like, I'm at the point where like I like God has shown me consistently lately. He sees me, He hears me, and I got a free Ring doorbell, so I know the door is coming. I just don't know where I'm going to be moving, and I'm hoping that my beloved will be with me. Because
Absolutely.
that has not been easy either. But at the end of the day, it's just like he has his own process, and like what is God wanting to do for him, and where is he at, and what needs to happen. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like for me, like I would like to say like certain things make me feel stabilized. I just got my car back and now I got two bent rims. I'm like, not
Now you have two
bent
what?
rims.
Oh.
Like, they were already there, but you know when you fix some things and then you're able to, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And then
just
some comes up
like
and be like, ah.
I'm. I honestly the type of day I had today is like I don't know what to do next. I just know I'm doing what I'm told and like I'm showing up and I'm shining.
Period. That part. That's all that matters, man. And like you mentioned something else, in the sense of things not happening when you want them to. I heard this quote during probably one of the worst times in my
Oh yeah.
life. And the quote went, rejection is God's protection. Um, and what I get from that is what's meant for you will happen. If it's meant for you, it will come to you. There is nothing that we can do about it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever is coming to you, whatever you prayed about, whatever, God is meant to bless you with, you may not get it at the time that you could have gotten it due to whatever circumstances may lie ahead. But when it comes to you being prepared for it, like you mentioned before, when it came to the you getting your own place, or other things falling into place, sometimes we're not able to receive things when we receive things at that moment because there's a section or part of our life that we're not ready to receive it just yet. With that being said, closing last remarks, I do have one final question for you. Um, for everyone that is wanting to start that podcast, wanting to follow that dream, wanting to do that thing that makes them say, "Oh, I can't wait to do whatever," like dream wise, what advice do you have for them?
It starts with a vision. And I've learned that most of my own visions are not sustainable. Like the visions that last and the visions that thrive have been with God's assistance when I've invited Him into it. So for me, when it came to my podcast, I was like, am I just saying this for the sake of being heard, or do I actually have like a valid message? And then I was like, who would be my audience? And then I'm like, what work would I be willing to put in to get it to that audience, and would I care if nobody else listened to it? Somebody asked me today how many listeners I had, and I could not tell her because I don't care.
It's not about that at the end
I
of
would
the day.
love
Like,
for
if
the whole world to hear it, but I also know with the growing number of people who hear it, there's going to be other people who are not going to appreciate the value that it has, and I'm going to have to be ready for that level of criticism. So that I could not have my podcast could be small right now. A, because I'm building a bank for people to fall back on, but A, because I still like, I'm healing for some things and I would have crashed out.
yeah. Especially like I don't think a lot of people recognize that with certain fame towards certain things, if you're not really rooted in what you're trying to do, you're subjected for all of that to crumble at the criticism of somebody else. So like if I'm not deeply rooted within myself or um within my podcast or my craft or whatever, or for a better example, if we're not deeply rooted within our relationship and our walk with God, anything that anyone says about God or about our relationship with Him can throw us off that pivot. So, like, if someone goes up to you and they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, being a Christian is stupid, or being religious is stupid, or oh, like you're lame, blah 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 blah." If you're not deeply rooted into into like your walk with God, then that could very well just be like, oh, okay, cool. Well, like I'm not going to do this anymore. Same thing applies with the podcast or applies with anything. And that's why I feel like it's very important to keep certain things quiet until you are mentally and emotionally prepared for that criticism that may come along with it, or for those people to say like, oh, well, you're not going to be able to get this level of, a following or viewers or whatever. Like, honestly, if you are comfortable with you and your own progress with it, I really don't think there's any. I really don't think there's any reason for uh, you to necessarily pursue it. You have to be comfortable within it yourself first. But with all of that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have done it again. You know what I'm saying? We have once again brought an amazing talent, a true woman of her faith, with so much more to the SCF experience. But unfortunately, this brings us to a close of another amazing episode of Surviving the Flame. Caira, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me here and sharing your amazing story. And thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment, like it, share it, and leave an honest rating as well so we can continue to grow as a family and as a group. And also, with that being said, make sure you go ahead as soon as you're done listening to this, make your way on over to your favorite podcast streaming platform and type in those words, Unsilenced Truths, by yours truly, Caira Scott, and listen to some great, amazing content and stories and testimonies of how she has overcame things that a lot of people cannot necessarily say they've overcame. So with that being said, thank you again for sharing your story. Thank you all for listening and being here with us. We're gonna go ahead and end it with wise quote of the day. All right, and that is 1,000 words will not leave so deep an impression as one good deed. This quote is from Henrik Ibizin.
Right.
We're gonna just say a wise man said it. All right, wise man said the quote. Because I don't know how to pronounce that. So, stay tuned till next time as we continue to keep bringing you amazing content with to your ears wherever you are. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at
It's so
Surviving the
cute.
Flame. Make sure you follow us on Surviving the Flame, also located in the episode description, saying goodbye for now. But please, please, please make sure you remember to keep grinding always and spread kindness wherever you go. This is Surviving the Flame. Hey everyone, my name is Savion Mickens.
the owner and creator of Surviving the Flame. Please be aware and know these episodes you are listening to are real testimonies from real individuals who have survived and overcame some harsh and even sometimes overwhelming circumstances. I created this podcast as a way for some to realize that it gets better and hard times don't last always. I love you all, and I hope you take something from this episode to help you in your everyday life. For those interested in sharing their stories, please send me an email at tavion.mickens@outlook.com. That's Tavion, TAVEION.MICKENS @outlook.com. Thank you.